I was invited to curate this exhibition at the end of my 4 years between undergraduate and starting my graduate studies. And in that time, I spent it in Bermuda, and I was continuing to explore my art historical practice, which is definitely focused on social art history. And I began to grapple with questions such as what can art do? What power does art have? How much can we ask art to do, and can art truly affect change? And in that began to join with a second guiding philosophy, so to speak, which was me being bothered by Bermuda's complacency. I don't know if that is a problem for anyone else who comes from a small town or small country. But Bermuda is very conservative, and people are afraid to ask important questions and raise important issues. So things normally get swept underneath the rug. Also in that time that I was spent back home after my undergraduate, there was a lot There was a lot of social unrest, and there were protests happening. And I remember discussing them with my friends, and some of my friends were like, oh, how unfortunate that this is happening during tourist busy season. And how unfortunate that buses are striking when tourists will need to get around. And I was bothered by that, obviously, that people were more interested in Bermuda's PR and how we looked as a tourist destination rather than the actual problems that were being raised by our fellow citizens. So when I was asked to do this exhibition, I was trying to find a way to merge my two concerns, which was what can art do, and also the problems that we refuse to address. So that led me to this exhibition called Things Unspoken. And just a brief background of title and where the idea came from. I was reading a book by Gwendolyn DuBois-Shaw, who works at Penn, who is actually my advisor now at Penn, and it's called Seeing the Unspeakable, and it focuses on the art of Kara Walker and how she uses her artwork to make things that we don't like to talk about seeable. And specifically in the African American community, when people try to avoid certain topics that were raised just in the panel before me, and how she gets people to see these things and not avoid the problems that they have. And I like the word unspoken because these are ugly things that we try to avoid talking about, specifically in Bermuda. Things that we don't want to talk about in mixed company. So I went out and I talked to local artists that were contemporary artists. And I had conversations with artists about things that they wanted to talk about, but they were scared to talk about and talk about in their artwork because they didn't feel like they had a safe space to do it. And I had several conversations with these artists, and I then invited them to address a prompt, which I gave them. The prompt was very broad, but it also was very clear as to what I was looking for. And it was, as you can see here, I invited them to address issues that shed light on topics seemed taboo. And I wanted to leave it very broad because I wanted it to be organic. I didn't want to force artists to talk about something that they weren't comfortable talking about, or that they didn't have any passion talking about. And that was something that was very important to how the exhibition turned out. When I first went into creating the exhibition, I thought people would talk about the topics that were raised during the protests. The exhibition opened in June, and in March, there was a huge protest that was had a racial undercurrent. So I assumed we sent out the prompt as obviously everyone's going to come and talk about race, which was not the case. I think we only had one that addressed race. The other issues that were raised were women's rights issues, one from a male perspective and one from a female perspective, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And then there were LGBT issues and issues of homelessness and workers' rights, which I thought was great. And it was very surprising for me that these were the topics that were addressed. But I think that made it even more organic, because then those were the issues that we actually don't talk about. If there were issues that I was forcing on the artist, then they would be issues that I was comfortable talking about. That led the exhibition to take on a life of its own, and there were conversations that were had between the artists themselves, and then the artists and the audience. And when the exhibition eventually opened, there were a lot of emotional reactions to the exhibition, which was what I was looking for. And I don't want to say that that was just done naturally because it's just such a great curator, but there was, and I just picked the best artists, but there was a lot of manipulation that was involved in creating this space. The Bermuda Society of Art space is a space that was used for artists to present their work, so they could rent out the space and present their work. So it had that, how do I put this without sounding horrible? It had a space that was kind of generic, so to speak, and often it was showed the space was never really manipulated in a particular way to force audience engagement. So I painted the walls, which the board was very hesitant about. I remember painting the walls in front of a board meeting, and they were not happy about it, but I convinced them that it was going to be okay. So I painted the walls from the typical white wall of the gallery space into a dark gray space. As soon as the viewer entered, they were forced into this dark space. And they were also forced into a space that they weren't used to seeing in that way. They were used to seeing a white space, so as soon as they walked in, they were like, oh, this is definitely going to be something different. And I changed the lighting to, I turned off all of the really bright lights that were normally on, and I turned them down, and I only used the spotlighting on the artwork. So, once again, kind of driving home the fact that this was something that was going to require contemplation and the audience to actually be engaged and not just walk around without actually meditating on the artwork. And I also manipulated the space. They had movable walls, which was absolutely great, so I was able to create these small enclaves in the gallery space. So you can see here, this was a piece by Indigo Palacio, who was an emerging artist. And it was about women's rights and the woman's agency over her body. So the viewer walked into a very tight space that almost felt like a wardrobe, or I don't know how it was, but a small closet. And they were forced to walk through these hanging sculptures and actually walk kind of as if they were invading the woman's body. So you were immersed into what the art was talking about. And then I also manipulated the space through this video I'm going to show you. It's a really short video. This was for a video installation between a poet and a videographer. And the space being manipulated, and we talked together about manipulating the space in this way. I'll just show you. So what you're about to see is the space that the video was in. Not really the video because it's kind of long, but this was the space, and we painted the walls black, once again, against the forest fishes. And then the video was on this white wall, and you don't really get the full sense of it, but I wanted to show you a little bit of what it was like. So there was a very small space. It could hold maybe about 5 people at a time to view it. So they were forced into this extremely small space that was painted black, making the space feel even smaller. And the video was about rape culture and how we don't like to address that. And it's called Lost Sleep. So we painted the walls black to simulate darkness and nighttime. And then you were forced into this small space as if you were invading, once again, invading a woman's body. and invading the space surrounding a woman. So that was part of the exhibition spaces and how we were able to create conversation and force the viewers to engage with the artwork and not just kind of walk past paintings and videos kind of without actually thinking through what is happening. And I was inspired by that. And the work was also very, in your face. It wasn't like it was something to peel back. Which also allowed the viewer to not have to think through what exactly the artist is trying to say here, but it was very in your face. And it was, as T.J. Clark, the art critic, says, the art was very, this is how it is. It was extremely political and obvious what the artist was trying to say, which led to an interesting engagement between the audience and the exhibition. There were those who, as I said, cried at the opening, which was very moving to me and made me feel great. But it also was very important that Bermudians specifically were able to engage in an exhibition through that way. Not saying that hasn't happened before, and I'm the first person to do it. But it was, I think it was very needed to have the Bermudian art audience able to once again engage in that way with artwork. And there were people saying that this is exactly what we needed. We needed people to be able to actually confront their demons, so to speak, or what is plaguing the Bermudian society and things that we don't like to talk about, and to have it out in the open in that way was something that was very needed. But then there were those who were actually angry, and there were people who said they were upset that people had to be exposed to these topics, and once again, how upsetting it is that tourists have to be confronted with these topics, which I think they might have missed the point of the exhibition. But I was upset when I first heard this, but then I realized that at least people were talking about the issues, even if they didn't want to, which I think led to the exhibition at least somehow peeling back the layers of things that we need to talk about and creating conversations in society. So that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I didn't even have to put up my paper. Another round of applause for we're going to entertain some questions. I believe that was truly inspiring to talk about things that aren't really talked about, and then when people criticize it, it still makes you feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yes, Natalie.
Yeah. This is really a logistical question, because you exhibited at the Bermuda Society of Art, is that correct? They have a space that you can kind of sign up to borrow, or they invite you to curate?
Yes.
And I was just wondering, when you're putting on a show that is designed to invoke dialogue, and so it's a really interesting concept, we're a small community as well, and we're grappling with a lot of the same kind of conversations, and it's very hard to have those. There's always going to be kind of two very extreme kind of conversations. People don't want to hear about it, and then other people really want to bring it out to the forefront. So you're very brave to do that in a small community. How do you fund something like that? Because of course traditional funders might run away from these controversial topics, and I'm sure there's a lot of us in the room that are doing pop-up exhibitions or smaller even collections. We'd love to hear more about that.
You can still run the floor.
Well, one of the joys of being in a small community is that you happen to know people in high places. So I actually have a close friend who is on the, I actually have close friends, I should say plural, who are on the Bermuda Arts Council, and who believed in my vision, and who also who also believed that this was something that needed to be done. So when they turned in my grants, they saw my name at the top, and I had already talked to them about what I was doing. So they were able to convince the rest of the board that it was something that needed to be done. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I was going to say this is
you have an arts council.
yeah, so we have an arts council who are, yeah, so
Any more questions? Charlotte?
Mine's pretty simple. It's more of an opinionated answer for me, but what would your advice be to, like, I'm still in college, so obviously I'm not quite nearly close to where you are yet, but what would your advice be to somebody who wanted to do something that's taboo in the curating world and make an exhibition like that? I know you have connections, but like, it's a scary thing to step into that and then suddenly do something that a lot of people might look down on, especially if you're trying to bring community together. What would be your main piece of advice that got you through the whole thing?
There were definitely moments where I was absolutely terrified. And I would say to get mentors who believe in you and who believe in your vision. I had a huge, not going to say a huge, but I definitely had people who were in my corner who believed in what I was doing. And when I was kind of like crying in the corner, they would say, no, this is very important, and this is something that needs to be done. And we believe in you, and you can keep going forward. I also, because I had contemporary Bermudian artists in it, they also, and they were exhibiting in the exhibition, they had kind of bought into my vision. So I know I had their blessing as well. Also, this is kind of funny, but also kind of true. I was also leaving. I did this exhibition in June, and I headed off to graduate school in August. So I kind of was like, if this all goes absolutely horribly, I'm leaving in August. The timing was also kind of part of it. They were like, you can do it in either November or you can do it in June. I was like, I'll do it in June, in case this all goes awry. But that was kind of something I did actually think about. But there weren't any like, protests happening. I think people kind of also realized that this was a problem and this is something that needs to be addressed, especially considering the climate and all the protests that were happening at that time. And then people kind of realized this is something that actually does need to be addressed. So I think despite the fact that they were angry, I think they also were like, yes, this is something that's a problem. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
We have time for one more question. Just one more.
Do you have any future plans for exhibitions like this?
I hate to say yes, because the entire time that I was doing the exhibition, I think that I feel for any curator out there, because it is extremely stressful, especially working with contemporary artists who are alive, and so you have to deal with artist personalities. But I do have some ideas kind of in the back of my mind, focusing on propaganda, because that is what my field is, interwar Germany, and the propaganda that was kind of pushed through the Nazi regime. And I want to focus on something like that. I don't see that happening within the next year or two, simply because I have grad school and stuff to do. But I do want to, I think I do want to do it again. I like the idea of seeing a vision exhibited through artwork and seeing the power that art has. So I definitely would love to do it again. But I don't know if I can handle the stress. But yeah. Thank you.